Hello, good morning and welcome to this video by the RC Biker. If this video is of any help to you, please make sure to hit that big red subscribe button down below, and most importantly remember to hit the notifications bell so that you get notified every time I upload a new video. So in this video then we're going to be working on this Kyosho GXR 18 sized engine. 3 years ago, just over 3 years ago actually, this engine got blown up. The on-off switch got turned to off whilst the vehicle was in motion and left this engine full throttle in a field, and subsequently it snapped the Conrod and ruined the piston and liner. So I've got some replacement parts today. So replacement parts we've got are a new Conrod pin, okay, we've got a brand new piston and liner, and we've also got a brand new Conrod. Tools wise, we're going to be needing a couple of hex screwdrivers to remove the cylinder head and the back plate and the pull start, and we're also going to be needing a pair of pliers as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the air filter for no other reason other than it's just going to get in the way, so I'm going to take that one off and just pop that safely to one side. Next thing we want to do is take the back plate off. Now on this engine there's only 2 screws holding the pull start on. On some engines you might have 4. So let's remove this one. So now that we've removed those screws, we can remove the housing. Now on this pull start we have to pull the string up a little bit, then we have to remove this part. It's a little bit stiff because it's obviously been on there for a long time. There it is. Remove this part, and then that's going to allow the pull start to come off. Take it off really carefully because we don't want the spring going everywhere. There it is. So you have to take real care as it comes off, because the last thing you want is the spring coming out, because that will cause lots of problems. So again, we're just going to pop the pull starter to one side and carry on working on the engine. Okay, so with the pull starter removed, there's a little clip here. I'm going to take that off so that it doesn't get lost anywhere, and again pop that to one side. Now we need to remove the back plate. You can see that there's 4 Phillips head screws holding this one on. Yours might have hex style screws. With those all removed, we should be able to slide the back plate off, and with it is going to come the starter shaft. Now this, together with the screws, can just go to one side. And now inside the engine you can see this is the crankshaft here. If I spin the flywheel, the Conrod would connect onto here. Now where this engine broke and blew up a few years ago, I've already removed the old Conrod. So your first step would be to remove the old Conrod, and most importantly remove any little shards of metal that have flaked off and are stuck in the crankcase. That's very important, because if there are any little particles of metal left in there when you've rebuilt the engine with the new parts, it could do some serious damage again. So you need to make sure if there are any metal parts in here, we need to make sure that we remove all of them. Okay, so next thing we need to do is remove the cylinder head, and that's going to allow me to get access to the piston and sleeve area. So this one has 2.5mm hex screws, and it's got 4 of them. So it's got 1, 2, 3 and 4. So I'm going to just remove those. Okay, and we're going to pull this out. You can see actually the cylinder, the sleeve has come out with it. So you saw there that the sleeve actually came out with the cylinder head, but I've just popped it in there to show you. So this is the piston sleeve. To remove it, simply pull it out. We're going to be replacing this anyway, so if it was being a little bit of a pain to get out, what you can do is inside you can use a screwdriver to very carefully push it upwards. Okay, if you're doing this on a rear exit exhaust engine, you can also use the exhaust port as well, but this one's coming out quite easily, so we're just going to remove the old liner and then again set that one to one side. So with the old piston and liner removed, we need to make sure that again there's no metal particles on the inside of the crankcase here or inside the crankcase. So you need to make sure it's nice and clean and ready for the new parts. I'm just going to spray a little bit of WD-40 and just give it a little clean in this area just to make sure it's nice and clean, ready for the new liner to go in. Okay, so what we want to do next, I'm just going to set the crankcase aside. We're going to assemble the new Conrod and the new piston. Okay, so we've got the new piston here. Again, need to be very careful we don't damage it. So let's remove these parts from the packaging. Okay, so here's what it's going to look like then. You can see there's an oil port here, a little hole on the bottom of the Conrod. This is going to face towards the flywheel. So our piston is going to go on this part here. The pin is going to go through the middle, and then the clip is going to secure in this hole to stop the pin from coming out. Okay, so this is what it should look like then. So we've got the piston and the Conrod connected. We've got the little oil hole here. Remember, that needs to be facing towards the carburetor, and this cutout in the piston also needs to be facing towards the carburetor. So in the engine it's going to sit this way. So next what we need to do is get the Conrod connected up to the crankshaft. So to do that, just going to again make sure it's the correct way, slide it down into the crankshaft area, and you'll see the Conrod coming down. Grab it with the pliers, turning the flywheel to get the crankshaft round, and it's a little bit fiddly, but just take your time, and then onto there. Lovely. So now we've got the Conrod connected up to piston. Okay, right, next thing to do is to install the liner. Here's our new liner. Now you'll notice on the liner there is a very, very small, so small I can't even find it. Yeah, there it is. It's a very, very small little notch. That notch needs to align with this notch here. Okay, so again I'm just going to do final little bit of spray just to make sure that it's all going to go in smoothly, and then just guiding the piston up into the liner. Once it's in there, all the way down, make sure the notch has lined up, which it has, and then you can just give it a go. So twisting the flywheel, be aware of it will push the new liner up, but you can just make sure that that's turning over really, really nicely. I'm holding the liner because otherwise if I let go it'll push the sleeve back out, you can see. Okay, so there's your new piston and liner installed. Crankshaft is all connected up with the Conrod. Next what we need to do is replace the back plate. So I've got the back plate here, just going to slide that one onto the engine, line up the holes, good, Now these are metal to metal screws, so I would recommend that we use a little bit of thread lock just on the threads of these. I'm not going to tighten them all the way, I'm going to tighten them diagonally. So I'm going to do this one, this one, this one, and then this one. And I haven't tightened them all the way up, I'm just going to get them all in to start with. And then once they're all in, then we can tighten them up and tighten them diagonally. Okay, so all 4 screws are in, so now we're just going to work round, gradually tightening them. All of them are nice and tight. If we have a look at the side of the engine, we can see that the back plate is sitting nice and flush, nice and tight to the surface of the crankcase. Okay, let's just spin this, make sure that this is spinning. Lovely. So I'm going to hold off with the pull start for now. Next thing we're going to do is replace the heatsink. Before I replace the heatsink, I'm just going to take this opportunity to make sure that our glow plug is working. Makes sense to do that. And then we're going to sit the heatsink on again, making sure it's all nice and clean. Seat it onto there and you'll feel it go in. Okay, again there's 4 metal to metal screws, so we're going to make sure that we use thread lock on each of these. Again, we're not going to tighten them all the way initially, just want to get all 4 of them in. And then what we will do is again tighten them diagonally, because again we want the cylinder head to sit nice and flat onto the crankcase. Sorted. Okay, last thing to do then is get the pull starter back on. Okay, so you remember that little pin that we removed earlier? That needs to go onto this part. I want to get it through like so. So now this part will, or should, simply slide on, pull this up, round, and then again a little bit fiddly, and then in, and that should, I say should be it. Okay, good. So now all we need to do is replace the 2 screws. One goes there and one goes there. Just need to get it installed back into the car. Okay, so the engine is back into the car then. This one hasn't been started for 3 years, just had a new Conrod, new piston and a new liner. I've also just popped in a new glow plug as well, just for good measure. Engine is in, checked all the trims, just rinsed out the fuel tank just to remove any gel fuel that's in there. So I'm going to be starting this on some brand new fuel that I've just got hold of. This is called Hot Fire Buggy. Never used this one. Let me know down in the comments section below if you've ever used this fuel. Now this obviously does need breaking in again because it's had a new Conrod, new piston and new liner. So I'm going to start the engine up and I'm just going to let the engine run for a couple of full tanks and then I'll do the full braking process off camera. So let's prime the engine. Just going to get some fuel through to the engine. Okay, there's some fuel in there now. Let's connect up the igniter and then we'll see how easily this one starts up. Obviously it's not a new engine, but it has got all of those new components, so essentially it kind of is a new engine really. It feels pretty tight, so let's get it started and see what we can do.